Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now, tomorrow is National Freedom Day in South Africa, which makes our next conversation quite timely. On Thursday, the University of Stellenbosch Social Justice Program held the second virtual social justice roundtable, convened by the chairperson in social justice at the institution, Professor Thuli Madonsela. The exercise included an examination of regulations, directions, guidelines, statements and bylaws that have been issued under the Disaster Management Act since the 15th of March 2020. Now, Professor Madonsela joins us via Skype. A very good afternoon to you, Prof.
Good afternoon, Desiree, and good afternoon to the viewers.
Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in announcing the easing of some social and economic measures, said on the other side of this time, he hopes South Africa comes out with a new economy founded on fairness, empowerment, justice and equality. How does a statement like this strengthen the efforts of social justice activists?
The statement is an amazing statement. In fact, it was heartwarming for me to hear the president speak like that, because it's affirming the fact that this country should be founded on social justice. The Constitution talks about building a country that is based on democratic values, social justice and human rights. And therefore, it seems to me that the president is setting us back on the path that President Nelson Mandela was taking us on.
You're talking there about the fundamentals of a just society, and if the measures that have been introduced since the 15th of March, are they in line, do you think?
Firstly, I would say thanks to government, business and civil society for the measures we're taking. The measures had good intentions and had everyone's interests at heart. But they definitely are not in line with the Constitution, nor in line with the principles of social justice, if you take them in their entirety. But we've got to divide them. Firstly, the packages that we elaborated are clearly in line with social justice. The idea of cushioning those who are in the margins of society, whether in terms of business or in terms of needing food, etc., that's a social justice intervention. Where we missed the plot a bit on social justice was the blanket prohibition of movement. I think it did hurt the township economies more than it hit anyone else. The informal economy, taxi industry, rickshaws, etc. And I'm not sure if all of it was necessary. Only time will tell.
Now, the virtual social justice roundtable themes also extended to poverty mapping, data, food security, and other social rights, gender and mental health. Take us through that conversation.
Thank you. The conversation on social justice and the coronavirus COVID-19 policy responses to it sought to assess these responses in terms of their compliance with the Constitution and our equality duty as envisaged in Section 9 of the Constitution, read with Section 7.2, the preamble, and Section 237. We were divided into 7 working groups that were looking at various facets of life: the economy, poverty mapping and data, education, health and mental health, gender, etc. Our findings were that there's been a lot of great work done by government, business, civil society, and the international community. We did, however, conclude that there were gaps, and a lot of the gaps have to do with failure to use disaggregated data in planning. Disaggregated data would be information that tells you about the situation of everyone in society. For example, if you're looking at the economy, you would not treat Kayamandi in Stellenbosch the way you're going to treat Stellenbosch, the town. You would not treat Emanzimeleni, a township in KwaZulu-Natal, the way you're going to treat Richards Bay, the town. You would you would understand that people in Kamandi, the majority of them are unemployed. The entire community there, and by 2011, the average person earned about 30,000 rand a year, but half of the people there were unemployed, and the majority of them were poor. If you're planning in a situation like that, you would know that the majority of the people that you're working with would be car guards, there would be people in the gig economy, etc. And you would be a little bit reticent in having blanket prohibition of movement. But I must say, Desiree, and to the nation, government had to move fast, and therefore looking for data was difficult. What we have learned is there is a poverty map that was done in 2018. It's old, but it's worth something. It's based on the data of 2011. And going forward, the people who are advising the president could use that data. We also have suggested, and we've sent a statement to the president and others, that a new poverty map, poverty and inequality map, needs to be done to give us fresh data. And the data should be disaggregated to what level, because most of the data we find is disaggregated to district level. If you look at the district, Stellenbosch, for example, you would think it's blue. In other words, it's not a poverty hotspot. But within Stellenbosch, there's Kamandi, 4 wards where the majority of people are poor. So you've got to plan with understanding that some people live far above the poverty line and others live below it or just above it. I'm talking about the ones that live just above the poverty line. It's the people who are freelancing. I don't think we paid enough attention to people who are freelancing. And in the new proposals, we are saying, even as we're looking at the 500 billion rescue plan, or it's called social response and economic support package, it must also look at the people in the gig economy. They're not easy to classify because they're not small business people properly. They're not unemployed people. They're just a class of their own. And 350,000 rand is not going to rescue those families. But also it will be difficult for them to claim as business people.
So, taking that into consideration, how would you advise government? Because there's been a lot of questions to social development about how that social relief is going to be dispensed and who qualifies. Did this conversation come up?
It did, and that's why we're suggesting that we should use the municipal maps, the ward system. Let's make sure that every ward is accounted for, and let's verify who needs this money. Instead of just having a blanket arrangement that says whoever needs money must call, fax, or email, let's have social workers and auxiliary social workers go there into the wards and verify, well, of course, within the context of social distancing. But we need to do this fast. And I'm not against social development moving, though, with the groups that they already have. I know, for example, they're doing food parcels. We think those should be given on a ward basis because we'll have underserviced and overserviced people. Let's work with social workers. Let's work with local government workers, not necessarily with the councillors, because councillors can politicize things. Let's work with the employees of government, depoliticize it, and make sure that everyone is accounted for and no one is left behind.
You concluded with a statement, you mentioned it, and policy brief that has been submitted to the President, Ministers, Parliament, business and other stakeholders. What are you suggesting to these stakeholders? And what capabilities are you using to track, monitor and assess policy responses?
Wonderful, thank you. The first request is that the regulations, guides, directions bylaws and statements that have been issued should be consolidated in one place so that everyone can find them and know what is the law and what they are required to comply with, and also what are they entitled to. The second thing is plan with data. Right now, the government is looking at the implementation of phase 2 and also planning for phase 3. Let's use available data to look at how has everyone been impacted by the regulations and by COVID-19 itself, and how do we then mitigate those circumstances. But we need data that is disaggregated geographically, race, gender, disability, and all of the grounds in the Constitution where possible. 3, there are sectors that have not been taken care of. Education, please, government, money should be released. Education is a social determinant of poverty already because of apartheid, colonialism, and other practices of discrimination in the past and the present. There's so many people who are left behind. Our children are going to be left behind.
But thank you so much for your time. Professor Thuli Madonsela is the Law Faculty Trust Chair in Social Justice at Stellenbosch University. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That's it from the agenda today. Thank you so much for watching.